Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight is Wednesday, May 26th, and the one hearing that we have tonight is case number 0520 Wall Street Development Corporation, Dupy Street. This is for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Laws 40B. This is for a 8-unit development on Dupy Street. So at this point, we have gone through the waivers, and there were a couple issues with the waivers that we wanted to address, I think, at the last meeting. That they're still listed as further discussion. And we also all received a 26-page draft decision from Patrick. And I think it's a really good start. Patrick and I talked today, and I said I thought we were at about the 95% solution for this decision. My guess is we'll decide how it goes tonight, but I would prefer not to finish and vote tonight. I think what we should do is go through this, and then Patrick can make any changes, get a clean copy, and then at our next meeting, still within the 40 days, vote on that. Board members, what are your thoughts on that? And Town Council, I see you're here too. Good to see you, George Pucci.
Thank you. Good evening.
Okay. George, what's your thoughts on that? That tonight we go over any points that board members have and any comments that you have for this, and then have one more meeting where we really just we'd vote on this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that sounds fine by me, as long as we do it within the 40 days. It sounds like you're on top of.
Okay.
Patrick,
I reviewed Patrick's draft as well, and had some minor comments back. So I've reviewed it as well.
George, your comments incorporated in the draft that we received yesterday?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so Bob Fitzgerald, what do you think the best way to go through this? Do you want to go through page by page? The first couple pages, I don't have any comments. Other board members might. What do you think is the best way to do it, Bob?
Yeah, I agree. We probably should just flip through it, and if folks have that's kind of the only way to grind through it, I think. Rather than bouncing around would be a harder approach. So.
Okay, so that being said, Drew Delaney, how are you this evening? Good. Okay. First page. Thank you, Patrick, for bringing it up on the screen. Does anybody have any issues on this?
Nope.
Okay.
Negative.
Page 2. Does anybody have any questions or comments on page 2?
I have some on number 10 under factual findings.
Okay, so I agree with.
But I'm sorry, it's on my page too, so sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so let's go over to page 3. I didn't have anything until we got to page 3. So let's talk about factual findings. Suzanne, you said you had something that you wanted to add.
On number 10, I think being this is our worst drainage area and one of the worst drainage areas in town, I would like it if it would say review issues concerning civil engineering, drainage, traffic, site design, architecture, stormwater. I just want drainage in there because drainage is a huge issue up there. And Tetra Tech did do the drainage, so.
Okay.
No big deal, but.
I had something on number 11. Does anybody have anything else before number 11?
Nope.
Okay, so number 11 talks about fire department and engineering department in the Hammerhead. And I wanted mentioned in this that the fire truck turning into Dupy Street would swing into oncoming traffic on Route 27, High Plains Street. So that's for number 11. I'll say that again. Fire trucks turning into Dupy Street would cross the center line into oncoming traffic on Route 27.
I think that's a great comment. I noticed it in paragraph 18 when we get there, deals with the turning radius stuff. And I don't know if we want to just say it in one place rather than both, but
I actually wanted to say it in both places,
In both.
Bob.
Okay.
because That still is one of the big concerns that we have on this. So I did see, as I went through it, like you did, I'm sure, I saw it mentioned later, but I still think it should be put in this point. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on page 3 there?
I do have a comment on 12, but if my math is correct, based on the description there, the applicant has not provided $9,800 in fees for consulting work, peer review work.
So,
Go ahead, Patrick.
sorry, you mean the $9,950 figure specifically for Tetra Tech?
Well, so I was looking at, we had an original ask of $9,950.
Yep.
And then we received a partial payment of $4,950, so there was $5,000 still outstanding. And then he paid $1,200 of that, so there would have been $3,800 still outstanding. And then we added an additional $6,000 to that, so that would bring it up to $9,800 outstanding.
Where's the voice?
And
I thought the 12 went to traffic.
Wait a minute now.
well, yeah, I was just looking at it as a sum total and not
Okay,
consultant specific.
okay.
But I guess my what I want to do is determine what the amount that he has not paid yet and make that a condition that he pay it. Because I don't, we asked for a reasonable scope of work. We got it. The board's entitled to retain its own experts and at a reasonable rate for reasonable purposes. And I think we've done that here. So I don't want to set a precedent that it's okay to blow off requests for reasonable peer review costs incurred by the board.
Okay. So I'm just making a note to myself to add that as a condition.
Yeah, and I was thinking that condition could go in maybe in the general conditions at the end of section 4A, but I don't have a strong feeling about that.
Bob, I like your comments, and I think under section 12, what we're looking at here, the last line in that should say the applicant still has outstanding balance of, and put the exact amount in here because this is under findings.
Right.
John, can I ask George a question about receiving any information, including checks, after a hearing is closed? How that works?
I can answer. I usually wait for John to direct the question. Sorry.
Did you hear me, George?
I did. I usually wait for
Okay.
John to direct me to answer, but I'm happy to answer. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to accept further information after, but I think that point about the unpaid fee is well taken. And I do think that's a condition within the scope of your authority. Because otherwise it's going to be left unpaid. And, as Bob had pointed out, you properly retain the peer reviewer. It was a reasonable fee and it's the outstanding amount. So, and the developer is entitled to reimbursement of anything not spent. So there's no issue. So I do think think that would be a valid condition. It would be just
Okay.
like anything that happens after the permit, you know, some type of submission or whatever the requirement is when they seek building permits. All kinds of things happen after the permit is actually issued.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anybody have anything else on that? The next one, number 13, Patrick, I have at the very end, this talks about the 20-foot wide roadway. Was the minimum width that would be considered acceptable for emergency access. The issue that we have here, I think, is,
John,
yeah, it's minimum width, but if there's any on-street parking, that's going to be a problem. So what I had in my notes was,
John,
this, yes, are you, Jane, are you talking to us? Hello, Jane?
yes, I'm just trying to make sure you know that I'm on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
How are
very
you,
good.
Jane?
All right, good, thank you.
So at the end of number 13, Patrick, could you add something that says,
Okay,
there are still concerns about possible on-street parking and emergency access safety? Anybody else have anything about that? Do you agree, disagree?
Totally great.
I just had one other nit in 13 in the third line. Toward the end, the word consistent, I think should be consisting. So the third line down.
Site consistent, yeah, consisting of only 1.22 acres. Okay. Anybody have anything else on this page?
John,
I had,
Yes, go ahead, Jane.
I also have the same concerns there with regard to the narrowness of the road. In any of these, in any of these projects, I always feel that the road is, if the road is there, and it's fine if nobody's parked there. And I just don't think it's realistic in any neighborhood to think that there aren't going to be people parked there. And I can only envision a holiday and people will park on each side of the street, every other house. And I just have some concerns about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Bob, were you going to say something?
I guess it's on the next number 16 was my next comment. And that the last sentence on 16 reads to me more like a condition than a finding. So I think that's provided already in the condition. So I think we can strike that unless anybody wants to state it there. But it reads to me more like what we're requiring the applicant to do rather than a finding that the board's making.
No, I agree, because snow removal is taken care of later on.
Yep.
But Bob, you want to keep the rest. Dupy Street is a private way. You want to
Yes.
keep that part?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what the board's feeling is about we don't have to say anything, I don't think, but I was just wondering about, this being a private way and we have the issues of access that were raised, and not to the extent that they were at other developments, but I don't know if we need to just affirmatively say that, the board is not making any finding as to whether the applicant does or does not have the legal right to access the site or something like that, or that may not be necessary, but yeah, I don't think it's necessary. Sorry, just a thought, but we're not making that finding anywhere anyway, so it's probably, we don't have to affirmatively state it. So sorry about that.
It's good. You get us all thinking. Not to
Circular
worry.
logic, and then withdrawing what I just said. That's great.
you know, I don't think, actually, Bob, I'm now agreeing with you. I don't, it doesn't hurt because these roads are all complicated. I don't think it hurts to say it in this case. What town council, I just dropped off for a second. Does somebody disagree? Okay. Okay, next comment I had was number 18. And this talks about again, Bob, you mentioned this earlier, when fire trucks turn into the property onto Dupy Street. At the last bit, I wanted to say, this could, Patrick, you there? You got it on 18. The last, I'd like to add at the end of it, I would like to add, this could pose a safety problem for traffic traveling in the opposite direction on Route 27. Come right out and say what the issue is.
John,
For traffic heading west, like that?
I don't think we need to say, it's just traffic traveling in the, or traveling on Route 27.
Okay.
Go ahead, Drew.
So Deputy Chief had mentioned something about the pole relocation for the turn radius into Dupy Street on his letter dated from March 24th. And I know we talked about it with the applicant's engineer, and they kept talking about the relocation of the pole that's further in on Dupy Street. And I know just from personal travels down there, there is a pole directly on the corner of the entrance onto Dupy Street. And I think it's just important to note that I think there was some miscommunication between the applicant's engineer and the his understanding of what Deputy Chief's request or comment was as far as that pole and the reconfiguration of the intersection of High Plain Street and Dupy Street should just be mentioned, because I think the applicant was under the impression that it was merely talking about the pole further in on the street as opposed to the one that's directly sitting on the corner that could be obstructive to any vehicle turning onto Dupy Street. So I don't know how to word that necessarily, but I just kind of wanted to make a comment that I think it should be included as a factual finding.
Okay, and Drew, I do remember that in the public hearing, so thank you for reminding us of that. Do you
So how should
think,
I word that?
and I'm trying to think whether it should be a separate finding or just add it in with this one. I'd actually like to, Drew, do you think it should be a separate finding?
I mean, it was separate in the list of comments that the Deputy Chief provided the board. And it was specific to the fact of the relocation to improve the Dupy Street intersection with High Plain Street. It was talked about with the board and the applicant as a pole relocation for expanding the 20-foot roadway for the applicant. So I guess I don't have any necessarily way on one way or the other, whether it needs to be its own specific finding or just included in part of the fire apparatus turning plan.
I would just suggest an additional sentence that says, in addition, the board is concerned about the location of the existing utility pole at the corner of Dupy and High Plain Street, as it may as noted by the fire chief. It, also poses concern for fire access to the site, or something like that.
Hey, do you want me to go give you a bath now?
Or do you want to hop in the tub?
Dave, we can hear you.
Then can you do me a favor? All you have to do, jump in the
Dave.
pool and get the rings out of the bottom so I can put the vacuum in.
Dave, we can hear you. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's fine.
I'm on dad duty as well as ZBA duty. Sorry.
No, that's fine, Dave. Okay, I think that's, just finish up the wording on that.
Just a couple of other nits on 18. So in the fourth line where it says able to make a right hard turn, I think we meant right hand turn.
Yep.
And then 2 lines down from that, due to the narrow roadway and closely positioned homes, impacting as opposed to impacted the view of the street. A ladder truck would need to swing left, and then between the words left and first, I would say into oncoming traffic first before being able to access the site.
Perfect, Bob.
And add the word
So-
traffic into oncoming traffic.
All right.
Yep. Thanks.
Anything else there, Bob?
Nope, my next one's on 21.
Mine's on 20, so I beat you.
Okay.
The reason, number 20, the board finds the issuance of a comprehensive permit with the conditions and waivers contained below is consistent with local needs. Why do we need that in this?
I think I took that as some boilerplate from additional comprehensive permits, but if the board feels it's not needed, I can remove it.
Okay, town council, is there any reason to keep this in there?
I'm good either way. I mean, if you're going to grant the permit, it is nice to give a reason why you're granting it. As opposed to if you were denying it, I suppose you would say it is not consistent with local needs, but I'm good with it either way. If you don't really feel that that's a finding that you really made during this process, and you feel more that you're compelled to grant it because of 40B, then actually the finding would be inappropriate because it's not really true. So
Yeah,
I'm good either way.
Yeah. I'd like it taken out because when we talk about local needs, the fact is that there's only going to be 2 affordable units created with this project. So, okay, if that's okay with other board members.
I agree to
Yep.
omit it.
Okay, Bob, you said you had something on 21.
Yeah, so the last sentence, well, I guess it's the last 2 lines, but anyway, where it says the board finds that such conditions will not render the project uneconomic. And I think we might want to state that slightly differently and say that the board finds that there is no basis in the record to conclude that such conditions will render the project uneconomic. Because I'm kind of reluctant to make a finding based on the absence of any information in the record. And I'd rather say, based on the record, it's impossible for us to conclude that it is uneconomic. I just kind of switched the language so that it's, we're not saying that we even discussed this issue because we didn't. We're just saying there's nothing in the record to indicate that it is uneconomic. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that was condition, finding 20.
It's now
21.
it's now 20.
Sorry, yep.
Yeah. But
And the board finds that there's no basis that such conditions will render the project
yeah, I would say the board finds that there is no basis in the record
in the record.
to conclude that such conditions will render the project uneconomic. So take out the word not there. Yeah.
Finds that there's no basis in the record to conclude that such conditions will render the project uneconomic.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then 22, or sorry, I guess it's 21 now. In the 4th line down where it says the board had addresses these concerns, I think we just delete the word had.
Okay.
And then I guess this may go back to John's previous comment about whether we want to make findings with respect to consistency with local needs. But I was thinking, instead of saying address these matters of local concern in a manner that outweighs the regional need for affordable housing, I think we want to say address these matters of local concern in a manner that is consistent with the regional need for affordable housing.
So to make that its own new finding.
I would just delete the word outweighs and insert is consistent with.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that from the condition that we already deleted?
No,
No,
this is
21.
20. This is now 21. So it's where you see the word outweighs at the end of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line to the right there.
Right there, yeah.
All the
Down
way
the
to-
end.
All the way
Okay.
to the right. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
And then delete outweighs and put is consistent with.
In a manner that is consistent with regional need for affordable housing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I add the word privacy to the top part of that where it says public safety, access, construction? Because the abutters had issues with their kids' bedrooms are going to be looked at by these people.
Yeah,
And they had quite privacy concerns.
I agree, Suzette. I was thinking like landscaping, buffering, or privacy.
Yeah, I
something
was trying
they
to,
put
but
up, the headlights shooting into their house
Yeah.
and looking down on other properties at numerous occasions.
well, this is just what they were concerned about privacy big time. I just want that word in there, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I'm good until page A, or I guess item A4, but if anybody has anything before that, we should address that.
Yeah, I've got something on item A3.
I did
Okay.
too, actually. Go ahead.
And this one is after the word affordable, I'd like it to add in perpetuity. Okay. Bob, you had something else?
I
Yeah.
would put it, but John, I would put that maybe after as defined by the subsidizing agency. Because you're kind of saying that perpetuity is going to be defined by them.
Okay, town council, that's fine.
Affordable as defined by the subsidizing agency in perpetuity, I think would be better.
Okay, thank you.
And I just, I would change the word will to shall be affordable.
All right.
I should note shall is always preferable to will
Uh-huh.
for compelling something. That's good.
So in A4, so we have there's the the sentence that says this will be consistent for the affordable units as well. And I'm not sure we have to say that. I mean,
Yeah.
we can, but it kind of begs the question that that it can somehow be treated differently than the market rate units, and they should just, it talks about it in the first sentence for each unit, and we're not distinguishing between affordable and market rate. So I just rather not introduce that sentence.
Agreed.
And then later, the rest of this has to do with a minimum depth of 20 feet for the driveways. And there's another condition in F5 that I think touches on the same thing. But I think we can simplify this and say that driveway space, so singular driveway spaces shall have a minimum. Sorry, what was that? Minimum depth of 20 feet as measured from the face of the building to, and then I would strike the rest of that sentence and just say the to the lot line abutting Dupy Street. Because I wasn't sure what the nearest route of public accommodation or what that really means. But I think what we really are concerned about is the distance from the building to entering Dupy Street.
All right.
And then I don't know if you just want to put a marginal comment in there, Patrick, we just want to make sure that if we're going to say things twice in different places, like we do in F5, that we just make sure they're consistent with each other. So in the discussion in A4 about the distance between the building and the right of way with Dupy Street.
Okay, so for A4, you just want me to put that comment in there, so I
Yeah,
can check
just
it there.
yeah. So you can just check it with condition F5.
Sorry, my Zoom's can get rid of the control bar. 1 second. There we go.
Okay, thanks. And then in A5, we say that the 2 visitor spaces on the site as shown on the small A approved final plans. And I think we defined earlier in A1 that this comprehensive list is defined as capital A approved, capital P plans. So we should just use that throughout when we're referring to that plan set.
I don't quite understand the second sentence on A5. Does that mean there is a way someone can park? Or I don't quite understand that one. What's identified parking? The human that lives there?
I believe those are the 2 visitor parking spaces that were on the north side of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, but it says identified visitor parking and all other forms of identified parking
Yeah, I guess that's kind of odd.
must meet the minimum requirements and not impede. So there's no other parking.
Oh, unless it's just the for the unit itself, but I know what you're saying. It is kind of confusing.
It just kind of needs to be cleaned up a little. Maybe Bob can word it because he's good at this.
I think we probably can just strike that.
The whole sentence, maybe?
Just that part and leave and not impede emergency access to and from the site.
Okay.
Identified visitor parking shall not impede emergency access. Instead of and, right?
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Right.
Got it. Thank you. What other identified parking will be able to park on the road, though?
None, I believe.
I think we could just say such.
Yeah, the next covers that. It's says
Okay.
it's not,
All
it's
right.
prohibited.
Okay.
But I think we want to change at the beginning of that A5 where it says approved final plan. We wanted to say capital A approved, capital P plan instead of approved final plan. So in A5, second line. Oh, did you maybe you put a comment there already? Oh no, okay. So I think just all we need to do is strike the words approved final plan and insert capital A approved capital P plan. And it's plural too, capital A, capital P plans. And then on A6, do we want to be more specific instead of saying within the roadway, say within Dupy Street?
Well, they're gonna change the name of their road.
You know, you
Aren't
were
they?
calling it Project Roadway elsewhere.
Yeah,
up to
I don't
you.
think we should give it a name, right? I think he's gonna, wasn't he asked by somebody to change the name?
I believe police recommended him changing the name just because it's Diamond Hill Estates, but there's a few other variations of that throughout the town.
Yeah, I think what
Yeah.
George said is correct.
I just know that you talk about, from having read the decision and talked to Patrick yesterday, I know we say Project Roadway in other places, so.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to the board, that you
Yeah.
could put that there.
Yeah.
That's A6, Patrick.
All right, so just make Project Roadway instead of roadway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I guess we should, in A4, we should make the same change to the, instead of to the lot line.
To the lot
Abut-
line to the project roadway. Yeah.
Abutting the project
Yeah.
roadway.
Sorry about that. One moment. I'm sorry, Bob, can you repeat that?
So the yellow highlighted where you say to the lot line of Dupy Street, we should say to the lot line coincident with the project roadway or something like that.
Okay.
And take out Doopy,
Yes.
right? Yeah, perfect.
Yep. All right.
All right. I'm good till the end of section A. So
Yeah, I had done good too.
I've got one on A15A. It seemed like the first sentence there, final architectural plans prepared, signed and sealed by an architect with a valid registration in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Shall be signed, maybe?
No, I was thinking it wasn't a sentence, but now I'm thinking that these are all subsets of A15. So I think that's okay now. So sorry.
I think we would add an A16 that requires payment of the $9,800 that we talked about before in peer review fees. And I wonder if we should put a time frame on that, like 30 days from issuance of this comprehensive permit or something like that. It's not really tied to anything, but I think we're basically entitled to them now. So I think as soon as the permit issues is, we can provide, I don't know if 30 days is enough or too much, but I think we should
Mr. Chairman,
put an outside limit on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
just why are we extending another 30 days? If the applicant hasn't provided the funds that he's supposed to do, why are we issuing him anything until he pays that? What do you suppose the chances are of getting that once this thing is undergone? It just seems to me as though we've bent over backwards to accommodate this man who has not, as far as I'm concerned, played ball with us fair and square. It's been a tug and a tug and a tug. I don't think I think this should be paid before this. Personally, I don't know how other people feel, but I feel like we've more than bent over backwards with this petitioner. More than we've extended him more time.
I agree with you, but at this point, if we don't put it in here, at least this gives us some ability to get the funds paid. But you're right.
But why can't we ask for it instead of saying owed to us before, within 30 days? Why can't we say prior to the issuance of a comprehensive permit? I don't understand it. It's very simple. You owe, you pay, you get permit. I don't know.
Let's ask George what he has seen with other clients or other applicants that haven't paid. What they do.
It just gives a message to everyone out there that you don't have to pay.
George, what's your thoughts on this? What do you recommend to the board?
Yeah, usually it's not an issue. I mean, if anything, there's usually a balance left at that point. The problem with having it as a condition to issuance, then you get tied up with, well, you're going to record it with the town clerk. Is it effective? Is it not? I definitely understand, Jane's concern, but I think you're adequately protected. Number one, that Bob even noted it, which it passed me by. I definitely think it's a good concern that Bob noted to try to get that paid. But I think you're adequately protected even if you give him 30 days after issuance of the permit. Because, if he doesn't pay it, eventually he's going to want a building permit. And there's going to be unsatisfied conditions at that point if it's not paid. So you would at least have an enforceable issue.
Okay.
And again, the permit by itself doesn't do anything because there's a whole bunch of conditions and ultimately he has to get a building permit, certificate of occupancy, all that stuff. So I think you're adequately protected putting it in like this. And again, it's an unusual issue. The norm is not that there's a balance left at the time of the issuance.
Right.
So.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Do you think 30 days is okay, George?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if we defined the comprehensive permit as capital C, capital P, but I just, whatever or we should say this comprehensive permit or something like that. Yeah.
All right. Yep.
Okay. Moving on. Does anybody have any over to section B, affordability? I have a comment on at the end of B1, and it has to do with affordable units shall be in perpetuity. Just the end.
Oh, just throw it on the end.
Yep, right at the end. Yep. And affordable units shall be in perpetuity and not for rent. George, do you see any problem with that? George? Any problem with not for rent?
Yeah, I heard you. I'm just thinking about it. You know, the issue came up when I looked at it also, that maybe you want to say it at the beginning where you say what you're granting, that they're, you know, fee simple or home ownership units, whatever it is, and then you don't have to put it there. The only thing that concerns me there is you're leaving it open otherwise, and then you're distinguishing it for the affordable units. I mean, you're almost implying that you could rent the ownership units.
Yeah.
And maybe I mean, not the ownership units, the market rate units. So I'm wondering, maybe just specify it at the beginning where you say that, you know, you're granting 8 units, that you specify their fee ownership interest, however you want to define an ownership project versus a rental.
Okay, and do you see my concern that it's not very fair for the whole concept of affordable housing if somebody buys one of these and then it's, you know, they buy a unit and then they don't even live there. They qualify, but then they don't live there and they rent it out. So,
Yeah. But yeah, that's why I think that just specify what you're granting, that it's 8 units, 2 affordable, they're ownership units, not rental.
okay, sorry to do it to you, Patrick, but can we go back to, we can take out the bit about, and not for rent, but go back to the beginning, really. Sorry, folks, to do this, but
I guess A3, I think, maybe, is that?
Oh, yep. It's 8, yeah, 8.3. Not more than 8 single-family dwelling units, of which 2 shall be affordable as defined by the subsidizing agency in perpetuity.
Yeah, so it would be not more than 8 single-family dwelling units, comma, you know, however the board members are comfortable defining that. Ownership in fee simple or whatever.
which I'm not good at the wording on that, George. What would you recommend so that it's basically, we're saying it's owner occupied, but
Yes.
there's a better term, I would think.
I think they're also planning this to be a condo or something, so they won't.
Right, so
I guess they'll have
fee simple, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, they might have a fee simple interest in their unit, but not in the,
Right.
you know, in the land. So
I mean, I don't have a problem with owner occupied, actually.
yeah, I think that's probably a good way to do it.
Okay.
8 single-family owner-occupied dwelling units.
Okay. If that's pretty clear. So.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
All right.
And I wonder if in B1, if we should use the same language of that other one that we just were talking about and say affordable units shall remain affordable as defined by the, so in the very last sentence, affordable units shall remain affordable as defined by the comma, as defined by the subsidizing agency in perpetuity.
So I'll just get rid of this one.
Yeah.
All right.
We're testing your typing skills tonight, Patrick, aren't
I know. I'm
You're
terrible
doing
on a.
fine.
I'm terrible on a laptop. I love my desktop. I got 2 screens. I can see.
Quite impressed.
we? You're
Ugh,
doing fine. You're doing fine.
thank you.
Okay, moving on. Who has Who has the next
This-
comment?
It's on B2. I think after the word perpetuity, there should be a comma.
B2.
And on C1A, talks about, before construction, the applicant shall deliver to the board a check in the reasonable amount determined by the commissioner to be used for outside experts for technical and legal reviews. I don't think we can collect legal fees. Is that right? I think we can only get reimbursed for technical assistance if that's
Correct.
okay. So yeah, we should strike the words "and legal."
Technical review
Read
there.
Oh, yep.
I think maybe I just said wishful thinking. I left it in there when I saw it or I read over it.
Windfall.
Okay, moving on. My next one is, unless somebody has one before F, but does anybody have anything before F, talking about construction management plan? It's towards the end. It has to do with the building commissioner, the last sentence, the building commissioner may also request police detail as needed with coordination and input from the police chief. I want this to say that these will be paid by the applicant or subsequent owners, however we want. So after input from the police, we can, the expense to be paid by
Going to be a homeowners association, isn't there?
yes.
Well, that's still during construction, so
Yeah, this is, yeah.
so maybe by the applicant or a successor in interest.
That's good. Applicant or successor, I'm good with that. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else?
Not on that one, no.
Nope,
I don't.
I'm good until we get to section E.
Okay, I've got something at C2G. And Patrick, you and I talked about this one today.
Yes.
It has to do with the security, a bond. So if you recall, the applicant who also has Burns Ave, one of the things they filed for a modification of the permit because they wanted it better defined what the bonding was. Does everybody recall this for Burns Ave? So when I talked with Patrick today, I thought we should just use whatever wording that we agreed to. It has to do with chapter 81, I think, of the Mass General Laws, mostly with Subdivision Control Act for a bond. But we did that for Burns Ave, and I think we should use the same wording here, just because it makes, I think it makes sense. Board members, what's your thoughts or comments on that?
I agree.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Patrick, you can actually look it up. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
Very good. You'll make the modifications. We don't have to do it immediately now. Okay, next one I had was on D1C, and it mentions fire sprinkler systems. Were these buildings going to be sprinkled? I don't recall that they
No,
were.
I think he
I
said
don't-
they weren't.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think they were going to be sprinkled either,
Okay.
as I recall.
Yep, so can we take that out?
All right.
Probably should be, but
Should we say testing of all fire protection systems, including without limitation, fire alarm, and just in case we haven't listed everything there?
Yep. Good. Thank you, Bob. Okay. Bob, what you said you were up to E, that's your next one?
Yes. So I was up to E11, and I know we had for some projects we've looked at the construction hours, and I think we limited them. I don't recall offhand now whether it was 8 to 5 or something like that. I don't know if that's needed here, but I just wanted to raise it.
I think it is. This is close to both Bird Middle School and Old Post Road School. Kids walk right through here. So I think we should have the same hours of construction that they have at both Bird Middle School. I mean, sorry, at for the Burns Ave project.
Okay.
I think it's 8 to 5, isn't it?
It was.
Yeah. I agreed. I wrote that down myself, that we should be consistent. This is right in smack in the middle of two schools, and they both walk. They're going to be walking right by here.
Now then go ahead.
Do you still have something on E11, Bob?
No, that's it. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I would like to backtrack to the previous page. It's E9A, talking about lighting. And this talks a lot about the exterior lighting, and where these buildings are so close to the people on Victoria Circle. I wanted to add in, and we can discuss it, and Drew, particularly your understanding of lighting and electrical. I was going to say no exterior lighting on the rear of the dwellings, because that would be shining out onto the neighbors. But basically, no exterior lighting on the rear or sides of the buildings. Board members, thoughts on that?
I mean, you got to have something. Aren't these decks having stairs and stuff?
Yeah, I think building codes.
You kind of got to have something, yeah.
Well,
You
you mentioned decks, because I actually think that's one of the things that we still were talking about. I don't see how not having a deck makes the project uneconomic, and particularly where these are going to be right in the backyards of the people on Victoria Circle. Because later I have in here comments about the deck. But Drew, what's your thought? Do you have to have lighting on the rear of the buildings, or what's your take?
I think from building and electrical codes, you would be required for an egress to have an exterior light, but I think the proper, just making sure there's a controlled amount of light trespass from the property line is probably, which it kind of already minimized light pollution, properties associated, and just ensuring, yeah.
Okay.
Can we have them have
Is
cones
there
on them?
Could I, how about this? People put lampposts out in front. Why would something like that be acceptable? What I'm envisioning is you obviously need something out there, but I'm envisioning these lights that people put on their backyard that lights up the whole backyard. Now that's something that definitely shouldn't be allowed. And I don't know how we delineate between, or whether we can. I mean, I think you need something there, but like I say, these people have we have our backyard actually, but we're a long way from the people behind us. So I don't know.
So
maybe
it's
just
covered.
something to the effect of like no broad stream lighting. You know, specific light fixtures for egress of the property, but no broad stream lighting or flood lighting.
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, the last sentence of A does say proposed photometric calculation to ensure public safety and minimize light trespass from the proposed project property line.
It's,
I mean,
it's
is
just
that-
tough to enforce, you know.
I think that's usually one of those things where they get the occupancy and you rarely ever see the post calculation. So if we could put something in there that just says, you know, no,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No flood lighting, I think is. Excuse me.
to that effect.
So maybe rare lighting should be focused to the point of egress and avoid flood lighting or
Right, meet minimum building standards or building codes or electrical codes.
And do we want to say at the beginning of that sentence that, you know, to minimize impacts to the abutters along, you know, to abutters or something like that, just to sort of justify the.
Yep. And also change the word should to shall. There's a lot of things we should do.
Down below, C kind of, does a little bit more detail.
so to minimize impacts to abutters, rare lighting shall meet standards for building codes, our building code, while avoiding excessive flood lighting. I don't know
I
if
think-
that's,
No,
Like Suzanne said, you could take C and just reduce the amount of height, and that would kind of limit the amount of exposure to further spread to whatever the board feels is comfortable. I mean, 12 feet is certainly high and it projects to a pretty far distance. So, I mean, I could see 8 feet being more than enough, but I guess if we want to restrict it further.
No, Drew, if you think 8 feet is sufficient, we spent a lot of time looking at the photometric plans, and if that's what you think is realistic, that's fine. 8 feet?
okay. So if this, do you want me to remove the,
No, leave that.
okay,
Yeah, I think I'm trying to protect the neighbors as much as can be done on a development like this. Okay. Okay, moving on. Does anybody have anything else?
do we need D?
we may not, I don't believe he proposed signage on his site plan.
I don't think we need D.
I don't think so either.
And I'm worried about landscape lighting. What if these people decide to do their backyards and all these little lights, those like, look like a circus out there?
Oh,
Whoa. Not my house.
Yeah, the lands an E, it looks like you're limited to 3 feet or lower, and it has to be directed downward. Then you have the Grinch condition that says you can only have your Christmas lights up for 6 weeks. I mean, come on.
No, people do Halloween lighting too.
They do
They
it all
do
year long. I'm
everything.
one of them.
That's it.
I got lights all year.
All right. Is there any changes for that? Or
No, I don't know, Suzanne, do you feel like
I
that
just
eliminates?
feel bad, those Victorian people. What if all 8 units decide they're gonna light up their little arborvitae trees? I mean, it's gonna look like a circus out there. I don't even know if we need landscape lighting.
I think on the bottom of G, where it says, I believe it's the last sentence, you say light trespass shall be limited to 0.5 foot candles at the property line. You could reduce that even further for the backside, and I'm not sure if that's the north side of the property to, 0.2 foot candles or less
You want
On-
0.2?
on G.
Yeah.
is this
Yep,
E9G?
down
Gee, yeah.
lower. Yeah.
I don't believe I have a G.
I apologize. It is F now.
Okay.
Light
Oh, the
trespass
foot.
limited to 0.5 foot candle at the property line.
Mhm.
Probably,
0.2.
Yep. and maybe specify to the back.
Actually, I think property line is fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter any of the property lines.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. My next one is E18. Does anybody have anything before E18?
Yeah, I have one on E16. Just a couple of nits on that one. And the first line, snow shall be stored within the areas of the site designated on the, and then instead of design. And I think we want to say on the approved plans, since they're shown on the snow storage is shown on the approved plans. So that's where we want. I think the final plans are the ones that get approved by the subsidizing agency.
Okay.
And then the first part of the next sentence, the word extend should be extent. And then I'm good till we get to F, section F.
So my comment on E18 has to, I was going to say all of this should be all of Dupy Street, but I know that we've tried to move away from Dupy Street and say the project roadway, but I still think we're talking about Dupy Street for that's what it's going to be called in the future, I believe. They're not going to change the name of Dupy Street.
Yeah, I think the confusion was over the name of the development as opposed to the name of the street.
Okay.
So I think we're okay if we call it Dupy Street, as long as we don't call it like Diamond Hill Roadway or something like that. That would be confusing.
Okay, now I see, right. So what I'd like to see on 18 is
To the residents of Dupy Street.
The applicant is responsible for the sweeping, removal of snow, sanding of roadways, driveways, providing access to residents of the project, as well as emergency vehicles for all of Dupy Street. George, can we make that as a condition? Can we make it so that the applicant is responsible for all of Dupy Street? It's an unaccepted road.
Right. I think
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay.
I thought that was consistent too with what the applicant was representing during the hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Who's got the next comment?
I guess on E20, the last sentence refers to orders of conditions or superseding order. I know that's
Yeah.
probably boilerplate, but I don't think they there's no wetlands jurisdiction here, so we probably want to strike that.
Okay. So I just got rid of that sentence. Is that all right?
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
That's the last sentence, yep.
Yep.
Oh, one I had, this is for E23. I'm sorry, E22. It talks about security personnel shall be utilized to open and close the site daily and confirm, mandate the hours of operation for site personnel. And I would also like to have security personnel contact phone number will be posted on the site for
Emergency use.
yeah, but it should be so that the neighbors know who they can contact if there's an
Okay.
issue. But I had, my comment was security personnel contact phone number will be posted on the site for public, for the public, but I don't know if that's appropriate.
This is a project. I mean, I don't know if you got, I mean, I don't think you probably have, John. I've ran through these woods way too many times behind this project. But there's woods and paths behind here that a lot of kids cut through right at the end of the street where the hammerhead is. So it is an issue to have, there could be an issue with kids up here easily. Never even mind kids, it could be adults. But there's quite a path system behind here.
So I agree, Suzanne. So the sentence that you're just adding there.
Yep.
It shall be posted on the site, visible to the public.
Yeah. That's good.
I just wanted so that if there's an issue, people have somebody to contact, particularly where it's right in the neighborhood there. Okay. Okay.
Can you just, I noticed also on there, it says the fire department access to a lockbox. I think the standard is what they call a Knox box. It's a standardized key that the fire department has for all building. It's KNOX.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Drew, I love learning weird stuff like that. Good job.
There's much more learning from Bob than me, please. I'm not gonna take credit for that.
And Drew, is that a capital K for Knox, like Fort Knox, or?
I don't believe so, but I just know that that's the common terminology on most construction projects is a Knox box. As opposed to a lock box, which would be specific to the owner of the project.
I never knew that.
Right.
It's got to be Fort Knox related.
And it is capitalized. So
Is it? Okay.
I just looked it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. Thank you, Drew.
Don't
Okay.
we all love learning weird stuff like that?
You got to get me one of those Knox boxes.
With a capital K.
So
Right.
F7, is this talking about site triangles on Route 27 or what? Does anybody know what, Patrick, what is this about?
I believe it is, and that was a comment I got from Tetra Tech's peer review.
Okay, that's fine. I just,
Yeah.
it's off-site, but Bob, what do you think?
No, I think it's fair. I think we should say the site triangles for the 85th percentile travel speeds shall be shown on the final plans. So shall to ensure all vegetation existing and proposed and other improvements do not impede required lines of sight.
It should be
mean-
or other improvements.
Yep.
Yeah. And because I do think they, on the site plan, they show like removal of trees down towards that area of Dupy Street. And I think part of their traffic analysis, had to look at the 85th percentile travel speeds and whether there was sufficient sight lines, and they just need to maintain them. That's all. I mean, they can't obviously trespass on other people's property and start chopping their stuff down, but they said that they were fine as they are today. So I don't know.
Okay.
I had back on F3, the requirement to install ADA compliant wheelchair ramps with detectable warning panels. I don't recall whether that was actually shown on the site plan itself. I took a quick look at it and I didn't see that. So we might want to just strike the as shown on the final approved site plan, and just require that they install that. I think that just verbal description is clear enough as to what we mean.
Yeah, he did say that.
Mhm.
So just strike as shown.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in F5, this was the one that I cross-referenced earlier, where we were talking about the unit driveways having a minimum depth of 20 feet. We just want it to be consistent with whatever that earlier condition was. The language should be the same.
All right, I'll make a note to fix that.
Okay.
Does the fire department is going to be in charge of enforcing the no parking up there, right?
No.
I mean, police department.
No.
Who's going to be in charge?
That's the problem. I mean, this is
Yeah.
there is no enforcement. It's going to be on the homeowners association to enforce it. And the only time it's going to become an issue is when there's an emergency and you've got cars parked all over the place. So no, I don't expect anybody's going to go up there and enforce this. And that's the problem when you have a site that is just built out like that.
It's a huge
It's an
problem.
accident waiting to happen, that's for sure.
Yep.
I mean, in theory, it's a violation of the permit, so the building inspector could enforce it, but not that the building inspector is going to go out and look for cars or anything. But if it was a bad situation, we could point back to that requirement and say they were in violation of the permit.
Right. But again, Bob, do you agree that it's really an after the fact
Yeah.
issue?
Yeah, absolutely.
The building inspector is involved with building inspection, not parking enforcement on a on a development. Okay.
I mean, it could be brought to the building department's attention by other residents on Dupy Street, to say, hey, people are parking here, they shouldn't. But again, that's more of like a citizen enforcement, neighborhood enforcement kind of thing than it is anything else.
Is there going to be a number for like the residents there to phone, like a homeowners thing instead of the cops?
Just like any homeowners association would have that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. What else? We're into the H's. On H7, I had a question on this, and it talks about at least 20-foot separation between any building or connecting driveway or walkway, and then talking about the 100-year storm.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that must have been left over,
That's okay.
so I can get rid of that.
Okay. Because my question was, is this an issue? I'm not sure, so, okay. Okay, anybody else have anything in the H's?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on, now we're into section I, completion of infrastructure. So what I wanted, this is where we're seeing Mass General Laws 41, chapter, section 81U. This is the bonding mechanism, and I think this is, I'd like to have it worded the same way we did Burns Ave. So what my comment was, bonded the same way we did Burns Ave. Okay. Everybody understand what we're trying to get at with this?
Yeah.
Okay, because
Yes.
Patrick, I think in the Burns Ave modification, it is even mentioned, chapter 41, section 81U. So, okay.
Mr. Chairman, so the previous condition that mentioned I believe it was 125% of either the build
bond.
out or whatever. So the bond, yeah, so that language is the same. It's for the same technically the same work.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I wanted to be consistent with this section, chapter 41, 81U, because the same applicant was okay with that for Burns Ave. So, you know, I'm just trying to be consistent.
All right.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
No.
A comment on J5 when we get there.
Okay, I've got one on J3. Town Council, George, J1, the comprehensive permit shall expire 3 years from the date that the permit becomes final. Is it 2 years or 3 years? Do you know for 40B?
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, it's in the regulation, which I, of course, don't have in front of me at the moment, but if you just put a note, we can check that.
Okay. Patrick, will you just put a note and then we can verify that? Thank you, George.
Right in that regulation.
Sorry, which regulation was that? Or which condition?
J1.
Oh, it's J1. Yep.
And I just don't know whether it's 3 years or.
I think it's 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab my regs while you're
Okay.
talking.
Okay. Okay. Bob, what was your next one?
So on J5,
I've got J4.
okay.
Okay,
I have J3.
okay, go ahead.
I
Susan.
don't want any service of any vehicles.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want any construction vehicles having service.
Got it. I removed that.
Is that all right
Language.
with everyone else?
Yep.
So on J4, where it talks about trash and it says no common dumpsters are permitted on the property. And I guess my comment here is none was shown on the plan. So maybe we don't even, do we even need to?
Yeah, we can take out that whole no common
Well,
dumpster sentence.
No.
No?
I want that in there. Sorry.
No, I agree.
I want
Okay.
that on there, but I think I just want to reemphasize a permitted, so after, right there where you are, no common dumpsters are permitted on the property, comma, none were shown on the proposed plans.
I think we want to say approved plans.
Yes.
Okay.
And John?
Yeah.
It actually is 3 years.
Yeah, I thought it was.
12, yes, it actually is 3 years, so.
Okay.
It's great when there are regulations on something.
Nope, that's good. It just reminds me of how long other 40B projects were around because they had to come back for 3 of those, 9 years then. And it still wasn't built. Okay. Does anybody have anything before Jay? Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, yeah, I'm on J5, but so on the second line, it says of any purchase and sales agreement or rental agreement. And I think we want to strike or rental agreement. And then J6, it seems like it's the same condition as E18. So we should just be consistent if we're going to say it twice, or just say it in one spot. But yeah, maybe just be consistent, since I know E deals with a certain point in the construction process, whereas this one is a little bit later.
So change the language to be same as E16, or
I think it's E18. I think. Yeah, I think just have the language be consistent between the two. And then that's the last of the comments I had on this. I had two other things I wanted to mention once we get to the end of the document.
I did have something for J7, and does anybody know if the landscape plan showed the exact types of trees that were going to be planted to buffer the neighbors?
Yeah, it does show. I think
giant.
Green giant.
A green giant. Yeah.
Does it give the heights of them?
I think it's 4 to 5 feet high, planted 6 feet apart.
Okay, that's sufficient. That's good.
John, can I guess ask a clerical question? I guess who's responsible for checking to see if those are dead or deceased plantings? Does that fall upon the building inspector? And not to say Mr. Yanovich couldn't, or anyone else from that department couldn't identify that, but I'm just wondering if that's should be specified to whose responsibility that would be.
Yeah, I think it's the applicant's responsibility in subsequent.
The homeowners.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the initial one.
So I guess my concern in what I noted was that, if it was the homeowners, they don't feel as though it's dead and they don't want to replace it, yet it creates an opportunity to be a burden on any of the abutters. I just would want to make sure that that was noted, is my point, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that we even have to think that somebody's not going to agree with that what a dead tree is. But who is the tree enforcement person?
I guess my personal opinion, and though it has nothing to do with conservation, but they would be best suited to I guess to evaluate that, or to monitor it, I guess. I don't know. That would be my first thought, but again, I don't know if that could be that specific or not, so.
And my only experience of that is before issuance of a certificate of occupancy. From the Norwood, we would go out and make sure that the site was adequately landscaped according to the plan. And obviously, if they were dead and dying, they would have to be replaced before a permanent CO could be issued. I'm not sure if that kind of is relevant here. If it's after the fact, if the CO has already been issued, but I guess responsibility would fall to the successor or the home ownership group.
We should have that in there somewhere though, before any occupancy is granted.
Well, I think we want it though as a going forward requirement too.
Yeah, we want both, right?
Yeah, I would just, I guess, feel responsible that it wasn't sort of spelled out, whereas, a potential butter or person living there, didn't get the taillight special of plantings and it's yours to deal with, and so be it. We got our occupancy and there was no condition that said we had to maintain or make sure further down the line that they were, kept.
How about the building commissioner will confirm compliance with the approved landscaping plan for certificate of occupancy, maintenance of existing landscaping will be the responsibility of the applicant or their successor.
Perfect.
But J7 says it's the HOA.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the condo association instead of
Yeah.
applicant.
I think there's conceivably a point though where the first certificate of occupancy is granted before there's a condo association, because there may only be like, one unit sold, for example. And usually in a condo, it's once like 50% of the units are sold off is when the association gets formed. So there can be a disconnect between. So I think we should say the applicant or subsequently
Or subsequent condominium association.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Bob, can you repeat that last sentence? Applicant or
Subsequent.
I think what you said, the obligation to maintain landscaping in accordance with the landscaping plan. Shall be with the applicant and any subsequently formed condominium association.
Subsequently, the condominium association, I think.
No, any subsequent, no.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, obligation to maintain the landscaping in accordance with the landscaping plan shall be the responsibility of the applicant and any subsequent condominium association.
Perfect. Good job.
Thank you.
Does
Can
anybody
I
else?
ask a,
Yeah, go
can I
ahead,
ask-
Suzanne.
can I ask about J8, which in the parentheses, how that will be enforced and who gets to do that?
I think it would be the building inspector.
And so a diligently and continuously prosecuting a cure. Okay,
Do you want to say, or such longer period of time as the building inspector deems reasonably necessary, or reasonably
just-
deems necessary?
yeah, I just think it needs to be tighter somehow, yeah.
Or such longer period of time as deemed necessary by the building commissioner.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
might be better, yeah.
I think we want to say reasonably necessary too, just in front of after deemed and before.
Yep.
Hey, Bob, unless somebody has something else, Bob, did you have some comments you wanted to make?
So on the, I don't know, Patrick, if you can pull up the landscaping plan itself.
Yep.
I was just looking at that, and it looks to me like the vegetation, the buffering vegetation should be extended a little bit beyond what's shown on that plan. So this on the, yeah, so all those circles with the plus signs in the middle, those are the arborvitaes that are being planted along the rear lot line. And if you head to the left on the figure, they sort of stop right at the end of the first unit. So, if you were, diagonal to the lower left on this, you'd be able to see unit 1 pretty easily. I don't know why the arborvitae don't extend essentially all the way down to the top of the berm there, but I don't know if that's I don't know what the board feels of whether it should be extended or not.
I think on both ends.
I don't think it would interfere with the drainage basin because it's outside
No. Yeah.
outside the footprint of that. And yeah, then on the other side, you have units 7 and 8 that have no screening to the back. And I know that's just the town. There aren't any.
No, that's a good point, Bob. I agree with you there.
So
Yeah, this plan is not showing the existing tree line either.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure what's in the back entirely.
It's town property, it's wooded. Both those parcels are town property. Or actually, part of that's Doopy Street continuing on
Right.
to Summit Ave.
Oh, I guess I meant the, I guess south as relevant to the plan towards Victoria Circle, where the tree line was there.
on the Victoria Circle parcels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's there either.
Yeah, there's some pine. It's not that thick or anything.
Yeah, I don't think he shows it.
No,
No.
they mostly have pretty much yards and grass right now. That's why they were concerned with the people looking into their yards.
Yeah.
It's not, there's a few pine trees here and there, but it's not thick or anything.
So Bob, do you want to add a condition that says the arborvitaes extend from behind unit 1 to the
North.
the north
To the north, to the edge of the berm or something like that, or maybe to the edge of the retaining wall that's shown.
Okay.
We don't have to. I think we don't have to draft that right now, but that's sort of the concept.
Yeah,
All right.
and I agree to go the other side too, a few more feet.
I don't know if we should go even behind unit 7 and 8. as well, but there aren't any direct abutters there. I mean, that's wooded town land, so it's probably less
I don't think it's necessary, Bob.
necessary there. Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I do think it's necessary, and that's a good catch on that plan, to go all the way to the retention basin along the property line.
Now, I don't remember seeing anything about maintenance of the retention basins in here. Did I miss that? Anybody remember reading of the maintenance?
No, I don't remember reading it, actually.
Um,
Suzanne, I think what we should have is another condition, and it should be, Patrick, you can pull this from
Yeah,
another.
there's so many plans in town that
Just
will
say
have it. Yeah,
that the applicant or subsequent owner is responsible for the maintenance of the on-site drainage. But get the exact wording.
yeah, that should go in section H, I think. Water, septic, stormwater, and utilities.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not worried about mailboxes and stuff, right?
Suzanne, I know that's one of your things, but I really don't see that it's worth us getting into for an 8-unit development.
Yep.
And then my only other comment is because the project changed, I was looking back at the project eligibility letter, and this might be a question for you, George, that the original eligibility letter said that this is approved for no more than 12 units, and no fewer than 3 of those units should be affordable. So it sort of placed an upper limit on the number of units at 12 and a lower limit on the number of affordable units at 3, because that was 25% of the 12. And I don't know if that's something that the subsidizing agency kind of revisits when they see the final plans. But I was just more curious about it. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we should require 3 affordable units, but I'm just wondering what the process is to, or if there is any to.
Right. No, they'll review at the end.
Yeah.
But he can reduce proportionately if he reduces the size of the number of
Yeah.
units
Okay, that's what I thought.
during
but
your process. Yeah.
I was more concerned about us sort of issuing a decision that might be inconsistent with the eligibility letter, but it sounds like that's all subject to change at the end.
Yeah. I mean, they'll do a final approval at the end, but he can do that proportionate during this process.
Right. Okay.
Oh, but it would be nice to add that third affordable unit.
Yeah.
Be very beneficial to the community and affordability in town. Okay, anybody have anything else on this? So our next meeting is scheduled for June 2nd, which is, I
Are we
believe,
gonna do any, well, sorry, I have to interrupt. Are we doing any waiver stuff tonight?
so on the waivers, we had, and I'm just pulling them up here. We had a few things that were still the pending final decision. One of them, had to do with allow front porticos, front porches, rear decks to encroach up to an additional 60 inches beyond the permitted, into the setbacks. That's not my wording, that's the wording on the paper. You know, I mentioned earlier, I'm concerned about decks on the backs of these houses that are going to be looking out into the backyards. Patrick, when we talked today, I asked about the side yard setback requirement for this zone. Did you find that?
Yes, in the RB zone, the minimum side yard setback is 15 feet.
Okay, so
Which,
none of these are within, I don't believe any of them are within 15 feet.
let me just bring up the plan.
My table says 20 on this page. Residence B, side yard setback 20.
No, I don't know, but the bylaw I have from online says 15, but I'm not sure.
Does it?
Let me just, yeah, I got a hard copy here, so let me just check that to make sure that's consistent. Minimum side yard setback is 15 for residence B. It's 20 for residence A.
Okay. So that was incorrect. That's brought on here. Okay. %46 impervious. Holy cow.
So looking at these, it appears that the side yard setbacks, it appears to be 30 feet down to 19 feet on one on the ones at the end by the cul-de-sac, or the circle or partial circle now, unit 7. That's 19 feet. So you know,
I don't like the decks either. I'm with you.
I agree.
and just to complicate it, the plans don't show,
The distance from the deck.
right.
Yeah.
And they don't show the size of it just says deck. Oh.
Oh, that's by design. Can we ask for more definitive footage there, or no?
Not at this point, because the hearing's closed, but we've
Right.
been asking for, architectural
Well,
plans.
that's my,
a lot.
right,
So we had
right,
asked that.
yeah, that's my point. We had been asking.
We didn't get it, so on the waiver,
What's the general rule about decks extending into rear yards? Is it less than? I'm just wondering. So he's asking for basically 5 additional feet to go 5 feet off the building.
Try to bring
Oh,
up
so
the
it's,
actual bylaw.
it says shall not encroach more than 48 inches into the setback. 6C11, I guess. So he's asking to go from 48 to 60.
And again, I'm looking at these plans and I can't tell. It's showing us a setback from the property line of 30 feet for unit 1, but by the time you get up to unit 6, I'm still not sure whether it's 30 feet because it doesn't show it. I don't know whether the buildings have become closer to the side yard setback.
I mean, the call out does have a TYP under it, so I think Drew can correct me on that, but I think that means it's 30 feet everywhere.
Okay. But I'm the one that teaches the mapping class, so
Okay.
I know that. But
no, I don't.
Okay. So no. So the question is, should we waive, instead of 4 feet for a deck, the 48 inches, allow rear decks to encroach an additional foot? I think we've said that we're very concerned about these houses. So I would just keep it at 4 feet personally, just.
And it's also described that it's only permitted for decks that are part of a required egress. Is that how you read the standard bylaw requirement?
I think he has a door coming out of these buildings, doesn't he?
I believe it's a walkout.
Yeah, he has a walkout.
So
The deck would be above that.
So I don't see that this additional, I don't see it's necessary.
No.
I would agree.
So for the waivers, section 6C.11, that would be denied.
Yeah, I mean, and even the front porches that they're showing on the plan, they don't extend beyond the garage, the front of the building anyway. So it's, I don't know.
Again, they can still have a deck. It can be a 4-foot deck. It just can't be a 5-foot deck.
Right.
Because I don't think we'd win the fight of no deck, but.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, what about, the other one had to do with for the waivers was the stormwater management. I think that's I'm actually okay with
Oh,
it.
the storm management.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with those.
Yeah.
So. On the first, I don't want to jump back, but if you guys want to keep talking about stormwater,
No, I think we're good with the stormwater. So go ahead, Bob, jump back.
So on the first page, we have section 3.2.10 of our rules and regulations that required a listing of the site plan and a site plan that identifies recreation and open space amenities within the project site. And, he didn't provide a list, and he didn't, I think he misinterpreted it to mean that, there's open space nearby, so I don't have to do this, and that's not really what we were asking for. But so if we deny that, then all we're doing is requiring him to submit to us a list, which is basically nothing, because he said as much that he's not providing anything. So I don't know if we're, it's just weird to me. Like if we deny it, then we're asking him to submit the list. And I guess that's fine. That's not a big burden to do. But one other way to deal with it would maybe just to put a finding in the decision that says that the project does not provide any recreation and open space amenities for the, project residents. And then grant this waiver. If you see what I mean.
I think it's good to put it in a finding.
All right.
Okay.
I'm just going to switch over to the decision, put a note in there for me.
Yeah.
The only reason for keeping this as denied, it shows the density of this project, that there's no recreation space at all. There's, every bit of this 1.22 acres is filled up, as Suzanne, you made the point, 46% impervious.
Yep.
And, 2 parking spots. I don't think, by denying that, he doesn't gain anything, he doesn't lose anything, but it does make us have the point that, there's no recreation provided on this site at all. So,
Right.
Nothing
but-
green, nothing green.
But then, yeah, I'm just thinking as a practical matter, then what we're saying is we want him to submit a list to us that has nothing on it because we're making a finding that there is no such thing. So I don't know. I just, knowing how these appeals can go, if it is appealed and they'll pick at little things like that, I just wonder if that's one we could address with a finding and then just grant the waiver
okay,
based on the finding.
I,
But I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not.
I don't think the denial of this waiver makes the project uneconomic. How's that?
Right. That's true. That's true. Okay. Yeah. Then we'll just, I think we should also make a finding though, Patrick, if that's all right.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Okay.
And then on the next one regarding the pro forma. And I don't know, I'm trying to think through the implications of denying this, which is right now there's nothing in the record about a pro forma, and there's no economic information, so we can't make any, there's nothing in the record to make a decision one way or the other on that. And if we deny the waiver, then that means that he has to submit a pro forma, which I don't think we can compel him to do until he says the project is uneconomic based on the conditions, which obviously since the hearing's closed, he can't say that now. So, I'm just not sure whether we are better off granting this waiver in this situation, since there is no financial information that's been provided, nor did he raise an uneconomic situation. So I don't know, maybe George could provide some guidance on that one, but I don't want to trip over this. Like we can't ask questions about the economic impact unless he raises the fact that it's uneconomic, or that the condition is uneconomic. And if we're denying this waiver, then we're sort of forcing him to submit economic information that he might not otherwise be required to do.
George, do you want to opine on that?
Right, but you're not denying the project. Well, I mean, you haven't voted on it yet, but I don't think you're going to deny the project for failure to submit a pro forma. I mean, consistent with what you're saying, Bob, I have previously opined to you that I think that requirement is a little overly broad, because where that comes up is if you impose a condition during the hearing process and the developer says, well, I can't, it renders the project uneconomic if I do that, then you can require the pro forma, but you can't require it out of the gate before you even start to try to condition the project. So, and then on the other hand, I'm a little bit concerned about if you grant a waiver of his the requirement to submit a pro forma,
Then
are
we'll
you
never see
waiving
it.
your rights? Yeah.
Right,
We'll never see it.
right.
so-
That worries me
so
too.
maybe, denied with a reservation of rights, or I don't know, or just deny it.
Right.
Or deny as inapplicable,
I
something
think what,
along those lines.
yeah.
But I'm just a little concerned about, granting it. Because later will he say, well, I never have to submit one now.
Right.
Even if I appeal this to the Housing Appeals Committee, because they waived the right to see a pro forma. I can't see that argument being made credibly, but almost every day of the week now, I see arguments that I had thought were not credible before. So
I
think
actually
what-
like
but-
the wording in here. It says denied, and then it says right underneath that comprehensive permit would not be denied on the basis of not receiving a pro forma. So we're not going to deny the comprehensive permit possibly, but it doesn't change the fact we never got a pro forma.
But I think this raises a question maybe we should revisit, is whether this section of our rules and regulations is overbroad, going too far to require an applicant to submit this in their initial application. But maybe that's an issue for another day. But I like the way that we're, by saying denied and then with this explanatory note, I think that covers us there.
Right. So leave both of them as is.
Yeah.
All right.
After
Just to
all that.
clarify, the stormwater, did you grant those? Wasn't too sure. Let me just back up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Both of
Yes.
those.
Okay. All right. No problem.
So I think C6C4, it's assuming we're, depending on how we vote, I guess, but if we're going to vote to adopt the decision that we've been talking through, then we would be granting 6C4.
I agree. I think that one should be approved.
Yeah, I have that for a few of them in terms of waivers pending final decision.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, the 6B1, the setbacks and everything we had. Yeah, I think.
Okay, so all the waiver, pending final decision, I guess we could say granted, and obviously that's dependent on the final decision.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
6B1, I think that, yeah, granted, yeah.
Yep.
And just, Patrick, can you just confirm that the one about the decks, that is 6C11, that was denied? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, yep. Okay.
And a few of them are pretty much not applicable as well.
That
So
was
it's-
our determination, right?
Yeah, and so obviously that would be more, better written within the final list of waivers. Another one, 5D 3E is denied, not applicable, subject to further clarification. I'm assuming that's just not applicable though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Town of Walpole, rule and regulations governing the subdivision of land as amended. So the subdivision rules and regulation, he's asking for a waiver from all of that, but that indication of specific waivers sought. I don't know if we're going to get a clear answer there.
That's another one not applicable.
Not a.
Oh, I think you might have just,
Don't want to do that. All right.
Yay.
Yep.
Okay, at this point, what I think we should do is let Patrick make these final drafts over the next day or so. And Patrick, when do you
I can get this out to you probably tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, that would be good. And then we can meet, we do have a scheduled meeting on June 2nd. I don't have my list in front of me, but I think that we came into this with a 95% solution. I think we're at like 99 point something at this point. I don't see a lot of discussion if we meet on June 2nd. I think really it's just to make sure it's what up or down vote on this. So that's up to the board members. Bob, your thought, your thoughts on that? June 2nd?
Yeah, no, I think, I think that's a good idea. It's always nice to have the decision that everybody's actually going to be signing, when you vote it. If sometimes you're pressed for time, you can't do that, but here you have the time to do it. And that's a more thorough.
Okay.
And the
Does
fact that you're
anybody-
putting it, it doesn't mean that you're granting it. It's
Right.
just,
I know.
So,
There's a fire truck that goes into the other lane on Route 27. There's concerns on this project. So, okay, Bob, any thoughts before we move?
no, I think I'm good with this. I think we need to, I think we should be cleaning up our minutes. I think we're a fair amount behind on those. So I would just hope that we can crank those out and maybe.
Amy was in this week. She just has a medical issue she's trying to take care of.
Yeah, Bob, we have done the minutes that back to February, the ones that we had. I agree. I want to get them out of the way, but we haven't received them yet.
Right. No, that's what I'm just noting that. I think it would be helpful to get those done and posted.
Okay. Anything, Jane?
Bob,
anybody
Bob,
have
John, you concern me a little bit on, did we calculate our 40 days on Doopy Street from the close of the
I was
public
just
hearing?
about to ask Patrick
Because-
what the drop dead date is. Yeah.
I believe it's June 14th.
All right,
So
because
we closed the public hearing on on May 5th.
on the, being on the safe side, if you end up that the board doesn't vote, approve that decision, you want time to draft a denial decision. I'm not saying that that's what will happen, but if it did, you'd want time.
Well, wouldn't the decision be, that decision, it's denied? I always thought that was just the decision that gets denied. We've worked the best decision possible, and it might not pass. George.
Sure, you could do it that way, but it tends to